Hey everyone, it's Kaki. Today I'm making cream and mushroom soup. I have a ton of mushrooms that I'm trying to get rid of, so I figured this would be a great way to do that. I've never made this before, so hopefully it goes well. And my goal is to build a ton of flavor and create a really intriguing and interesting and delicious soup. So let's see how it goes. Alright, so to start off for the mushroom soup, I'm gonna just fortify a mushroom stock. So I'm gonna start by cutting off any tougher stems on my mushrooms and put them in a stock. I only have bouillon, but that's okay, it's delicious. If you have chicken stock, you can just use water as well. But we just want to get some extra flavor in where we can. I have so many mushrooms that I got at the market and I'm just trying to get rid of them. So these are King Trumpet, really delicious, meaty. These are cordyceps. They have a lot of medicinal values, but the one that I always think of is they're kind of stimulating. They can be used as like a caffeine replacement, but they're also really yummy and they have this kind of like al dente noodle texture. They're gonna get blended up in the soup, but use them anyways. And then I have mostly lion's mane. These are like one of my favorite mushrooms. They look like little brains, and they're actually really good for your brain and neuro health. You can look it up, but they're really good for you. So I like to eat a lot of them. Lion's mane has they're kind of bulbous, right? So their stem is right in here. So I kind of want to like just cut a little bit of that out. And it's pretty tender, like right under there, so that's fine. So I'm just gonna get all these. That one's kind of moldy. Gross. Won't use that. I'm just gonna get all of these stems off to get the stock started. All right, so I got all my stems here and any kind of like just older yucky looking parts. I've also picked out kind of the thicker parts of the cordyceps. They can be like a little bit tough, so I figure if I just pick out the tough stuff, it'll blend up nicely. We are gonna blend this soup about halfway, so it's like kind of chunky and kind of velvety and smooth. So I'm just preventing any really like tough parts from the cordyceps. So I'm gonna get my pan heating for the stock. And then I have some onion scraps. And I'm just gonna peel these and rough chop. Oops. Because again, this is just for the stock. So just getting some flavor. It's all gonna be drained before it goes into the soup. Maybe about half of this. Rough chop. And we'll save that for the soup. So it looks good. I'm gonna do 1 carrot for a little sweetness, add some depth in there. Stock is how you're gonna build a lot of flavor into the soup, so the more depth and kind of different vegetal flavors I can get into the stock is gonna really benefit the soup. I feel like soup has a bad rap sometimes, and people think that soup is boring or soups can be not very interesting at all. But usually it's because you don't have enough depth of flavor and you haven't built up your flavors enough, and you probably haven't seasoned it enough because there's so much liquid in there. It actually takes a lot of salt. And another key thing is adding acid at the end when your soup is finished, like a little squeeze of lemon or a little splash of vinegar or something like that, just to brighten everything up. So we're gonna do our best to make the soup really interesting so that every time you take a bite, you want to go back for more. That's the goal. And because we're using these really delicious and nutritious mushrooms, it's pretty good for you. I am going to put some cream in it, but besides that, it's going to be pretty medicinal, healing, mushroom power soup. I'm trying to eat more mushrooms. That's why I have so many left over. And it's going to be a really yummy way to get them all in. All right. So is that 6 cloves of garlic? Rough chop. Okay. So my pot sounds like it's probably heated up enough. We're just gonna go in with everything with my bunch screen. Do a little olive oil in here just to get everything going. All right, that pan is really hot. This is my, not my favorite pot, but I'm using my Dutch oven for the soup. I don't like this one because it is really lightweight, and so the temperature doesn't spread very evenly. It heats really unevenly, it gets really hot on the bottom, and it's just not a very high quality pot. Dutch oven is the best kind of pot in my opinion. But it's all right. It's still a pot. It works. You got to make do with what you got, right? All right. So all my veggies are in here. I'm gonna add some of this thyme. I'm gonna just pick it off. This is like this really stemmy thyme, so I don't really want to put all of those in, but that looks good. All right. I'm gonna do a little butter too. Dog hair, nice. Okay. And since this pan basically just scorched my vegetables, I don't really need them to brown that much more. You can see they're already like pretty brown. Oh my gosh, it smells really good. Yeah, so I'm just gonna cover this with water. Not that much. Alright, and I'll bring this up to the simmer. This just needs to go for like 30 minutes or so. The longer you do it, the better, more flavor you're gonna get. I'm gonna add all my bouillon. Forgot about that. The longer it goes, the more flavor you'll get out of it, but could go up to like an hour or two. There is a point where you can overcook it and it can all just taste kind of old. I don't know how to describe it, just kind of overcooked. And it's almost like it can taste mushy, if that makes sense. Alright, so we'll let this go up to a boil, down to a simmer, 30 minutes or so while I prep the rest of everything. Okay, so I'm just going to start slicing these mushrooms. You can slice them or tear them. I do really like to tear mushrooms like that because you get a really interesting texture, especially with these lion's mane. Then they kind of, it reminds me of like cauliflower or broccoli, the way it's like kind of breaks off into florets almost. But you can do whatever you like best. And then for the cordyceps, since they are so long and stringy, anytime you have something like this, that all the fibers run vertically, to get the most tender product from it, you want to chop against that grain. So that's the same thing with herbs, tender stems, chopping them like this. Kale stems, when you strip the greens off kale, if you chop the stems like that, they'll come out really tender and delicious. Same idea with meat. That's why you always want to cut meat against the grain. If the grain runs this way of the muscle, cut against it, and you'll get really tender pieces. So that's what I'm going to do with the cordyceps. I'll speed this up and get all my mushrooms chopped. Alright, so I've got my mushrooms chopped. I'm keeping the cordyceps separate because I think I'm going to fry these up in butter and use them as I'll put some in the soup and then use some as a garnish, like a little crispy mushroom garnish. And they'll be really pretty and like auburny brown when I brown them in butter. So that'll be really yummy. I saved some trumpets to show you. Trumpet mushrooms also have this grain going through them, like I was just saying. So a lot of times in restaurants, you'll get like a grilled king trumpet mushroom like this, and they're served up really pretty, and they'll like score the mushroom like that, and it's grilled, and it looks so delicious and meaty, and then you bite into it, and it's like super fibrous and difficult to chew, and like really, I find it really unpleasant. So again, with king trumpets, I always cut against the grain up here, and then you can turn the cap and cut it sideways if you'd like, if you want that, like, if you're just sauteing mushrooms and you want it to look really like a mushroom, you know, like those slices, you can tell that's a mushroom, right? That's one trick I always use, especially if you're doing just like a stir fry or something. Trumpets always go against the grain as well. And then they're super tender and delicious and like meaty and yummy. So let's see what's next. Let's get our cordyceps browned. Little pan maneuver. Well, I'm actually gonna do that in Dutch oven. That way any butter left oil we can use for our soup. So building flavor, right? Instead of browning them in my cast iron and then, you know, not getting all the flavor out of that pan. So we'll just do it all in one pan. And right, so the pan's heated. We're gonna do butter to brown these. Because butter is delicious, and this is just going to be our crispy topping, and we're going to get a lot of nutty flavor from this, and good texture, right? So if we have a really creamy, velvety, smooth soup, and then you have crispy, crunchy, buttery mushrooms on top, it's going to add a lot of interest. And every bite, sometimes you get a little crunchy thing, sometimes you get just soup, and sometimes you might get some herbs on top. We're gonna garnish with some parsley. So I'm gonna do a little salt here. And we'll just fry these up. Let's do a little bit of thyme as well. A little thyme. Or let's do sage. Sage will be delicious. Yeah, and see, these are already taking on it this really rich orange, beautiful color. Wow, really nice. Those keep going. The sage smells really good. Let's do some garlic while we're at it. May as well. In this case, I think I want the garlic really fine, so the flavor really melts in there, and you're not biting into chunks of garlic. I just want a little extra depth. Okay, and I don't think I'm gonna add this quite yet, so just leave that there. Keep stirring. All right, so these are about ready to come out. Plate here. Oop, garlic, almost forgot. Nice little soldered spoon. And the garlic only needs a second to cook anyways, so let's just get the really nice slight sharpness taken out of the garlic, but a nice like, raw-ish garlic flavor. Alright, so now we have all of this in the pan, which is going to be really yummy. So we're going to get our mushrooms in. And you saw I did a really rough chop on these because, again, half of the soup is going to get blended. And I'm going to do a little mashing with my flat bottom wooden spoon as well to get some smaller pieces. Alright, so I'm going to add more butter. And some olive oil. And we want to do our best to get like at least half of these really brown. And it doesn't have to be everything in this pot super brown. We have a lot of flavor coming from the stock as well. But I mean, this is just mushroom soup. If you just boiled your mushrooms, it'd probably end up really fucking lame, honestly. So to build that intrigue and interest in your soup, brown flavor, fortified stock, lots of salt, acid, more than one vegetable. So these are just building those flavors to get something really complex and delicious and interesting. So browning everything is gonna do that for us. I'm gonna hold off on salting these. Salt's gonna bring out all the moisture in mushrooms, and I know it feels like the mushroom's kind of dry and spongy. It's actually like full of moisture, so when you add salt, it pulls out all that moisture, and that's gonna inhibit all of the browning that's gonna take place. So to encourage browning, you need lots of oil or fat. Duck fat would be really good in this, or schmaltz if you had that. I don't. And if you want to make this vegan, just, omit the butter and cream at the end. You could sub oat milk or soy milk or something, or cream of coconut would be really good as well. But I'm not vegan. And if you want to go meaty, you could have, in between my topper stage and my mushroom stage, you could brown some bacon or pancetta or some pork product like that. Even like chicken skin, brown and crisp that up and get all the fat out, and then use that in your topping. That'd be really, really good as well. Alright, so I'm going to let these brown. Alright, so we've got some moderate browning happening. You can see in there, so that's getting golden. We also want to build up the fond on the bottom of the pot, which is these little brown bits, which we don't have much of that yet because there's still so much moisture coming out. So I'm still holding off the salt. I'm going to let these continue browning. I turned up the heat a little, so I'm at like a high or medium high kind of heat. And I am going to add a little bit of black pepper. So that can bloom in the oil as these mushrooms brown. And a little red chili flake, again, so it can bloom. Lots in here, just a little bit for like a background note of spice. Whoops. I'll let this sit. And then to my cordyceps topper, I'm just going to add some flaky sea salt. Again, just adding a little bit of intrigue and crunch. So you have this nice, like, reminds me of a gremolata a little bit, like an herby, crunchy, garlicky, salty thing for the top. And then my soup's been going, so my stock. So we're gonna strain that. You can see we have like really nice brown, beautiful stock. So let's get rid of the solids. Oops. Nice. Okay, so now our stock is ready for whenever we need it in the soup. Let's check on this. Alright, looks like we're getting some butter browning now. This is probably going to take about like 20 minutes or so to get to the brown level that we want. I am going to add some salt now. And I can see that a lot of the moisture has been taken out of these mushrooms from cooking it down. So now I'm using the salt to pull out the rest so I can get a really nice brown on there. Hello. Can you get out, please? Pete. Hey, get out of here. Thank you. No visitors in the kitchen right now. Okay, I gotta stop stirring these while I'm brown. I'm gonna push these up to the edges. Again, this is a Dutch oven, so the whole thing is an even thickness and it's super thick, heavy. So the sides of the pot are gonna be hot, so I may as well use those to help encourage browning. And then I'm thinning out the bottom layer so that more liquid can evaporate and more browning can occur. So a little trick I use pretty often. Okay, we'll let this go. Okay, so these mushrooms look really nice and brown. Some of them are really dark golden, some have just a little browning, but that's about where we're looking to get. Didn't get much fond on the bottom of the pot, but it's okay. We are going to, you know what, let me see if I have some white wine. I do. Alright, I've got a little bit of white wine. This is my favorite white wine, Sauv Blanc. It's been in the fridge for a few days, so I probably won't be eating much. So I'm going to add this in. White wine works, or sherry would be really good. I also could use like Shaoxing wine. Maybe I'll add, Shaoxing is Chinese cooking wine. Similar to sherry, I'll add just a little bit, just for fun. Why not? And then, so we'll reduce this, and if you had a bunch of fond on the bottom of the pot, this is how you're going to deglaze it, get it all. You want to scrape it up. We did have a little there. I can see it's a lot cleaner now. So we'll cook off all this alcohol, which is almost done, and reduce the wine a little bit. And then we're going to add our butter to make our roux in the pot. So I can smell that it still smells like wine. It still smells alcohol-y. So once that smell goes away or the pot gets dry is when you're ready. Let's add our butter. It's like 2 or 3 tablespoons. Probably 3. And you need the butter to build the roux. A roux is just flour and butter mixed together. Again, if you're vegan, you can totally use olive oil or your cooking oil of choice. So we got this melted, and then you want to use typically like equal-ish parts flour and butter. Oh, I forgot I've chopped a bunch of onions for this. I've got onions and shallots here. I'm just going to add those in. We'll saute them slightly too. Good thing I caught that. Whoops. And I have a bunch of garlic as well. So, dog. Okay. So now we'll get these softened slightly. I probably would have added these in before the wine. Doesn't really matter, but typically I would just do that way. But I just forgot that I had those chopped up. So do this. It's a good time for herbs now as well. I might do a little more thyme. This thyme is pretty awful. Just very stemmy. Try to get most of the stems out, but chop it up. I'll just chop it. If I can pick all the leaves off the thyme easily, I won't even bother chopping it, but since it's so stemmy, just chop it really finely. Get this in. Okay. Okay, so my onions are softened. Smells really good. I added a touch more oil, and we're going to add our flour. So I added about 2 or 3 tablespoons of butter. I already had some in the pot, so I'm going to do maybe 3 or 4 tablespoons of flour, and just mix this in. Here's another opportunity to build a lot of flavor. When you make a roux, you need to cook the flour off to get rid of the raw flour taste. Otherwise, your whole soup will just be inundated by this like raw flour. Yuck. But we can learn from what they do in like Creole style cooking in New Orleans, is when they make roux for gumbo or such, they brown the heck out of their roux. So they take their roux to like a dark brown, dark amber brown kind of color. So that's giving the soup a really nice roasted, toasted, yummy, nutty flavor. So we're going to steal that technique and brown our flour just a little more than we usually would. Usually cook for about a minute. I'm going to go by color, so I'm not sure how long it will take, but you can see everything sticking to the bottom of the pot there. And when that gets a really deep golden, is when I'll add my stock. And for the record, I've never made cream of mushroom soup before, so I'm in no way, an authority on this. I'm just making this up as I go. I watched a couple of YouTube videos and looked at some recipes to gather some info, but this is just my idea of what this might be. And it's smelling and looking really good already, so I'm feeling pretty good about it. Okay, so color's darkened. I'm gonna go a little longer. Just build that flavor. Also, the longer you cook your flour, the less thickening power it has. So if you're gonna cook the heck out of your roux, you probably want to add a little more flour than you would if you're just cooking it for that one minute kind of thing. All right, so that looks good to me. That looks nice and brown. And we obviously don't want it to burn, so I'm gonna add my stock now. Do a little bit. Get that stirred in. And I can scrape up the bottom. Nope, maybe I'm adding it all right now. Pan is real hot. Alright. So, now I'm just going to scrape. Ooh. Okay, let's turn this down. It's really hot. I'm just scraping the bottom of the pan, getting everything off there. Once I can feel everything scraped off, I'll continue adding some other ingredients. But I'm gonna add my cream, and then we'll see about the thickness. I might just add a little water. It is cream of mushroom soup, so adding that cream, you totally don't have to if you don't want to. Just make mushroom soup. It's really, really yummy, but I'm down with the richness. Oh my gosh, yum. Okay, let's see where this is. It's really, really good. Okay, I'm gonna turn this off. I don't want to cook the cream really, I just want it. Okay, so my video stopped recording. I'm pretty sure I just added lemon and it's finished, and we're gonna plate it up. So I'll just take this. Looks so good. It's like a mushroom chowder almost, so creamy and rich. And I was gonna blend it, but I'm just really feeling the chunks today. So you could use a stick blender, an immersion blender, or regular blender, or probably even a food processor would be fine. Just watch out for liquids spilling, splattering out of it. All right, so we're gonna do parsley first. Just like the lemon juice, it's gonna add so much brightness and freshness to this like kind of creamy and heavier soup. And then I make cordyceps topper, super crispy, garlicky, sage, and the crunchy Malden sea salt. Flake sea salt. Okay. And it's really good. Crunchy, yummy, and a little olive oil. And just a touch of black pepper. Okay, and that's it. So let's give it a taste. It's really good. Super creamy. The cordyceps on top are so yummy and crunchy. There's so much depth of flavor and richness and body. It's super velvety and creamy. And that garlic and sage on top is so good. This is definitely a soup where I'm gonna eat the entire bowl and be super happy about it. Okay, thanks for watching, guys. The soup turned out perfect. It's really fucking good. Lots of flavor, super rich, deep, just awesome, honestly. So try it out. Maybe try some of the techniques, steal some techniques. I hope you learned something. I hope you liked it. If you make it, or if you have any questions about this recipe, just comment. And I'll see you guys next time. Thanks. Comment, subscribe, whatever you do, or just watch it, turn on your computer and just let it run, you know, get some views in. Don't forget, eat mushrooms.